A gentle spring morning cast its light over the upscale residential area around State Street in Santa Barbara. Linda Carter, 35, was hurriedly preparing breakfast as usual. As an art director at the advertising agency, Creative Works, she had another important meeting ahead today. Alex. Pancakes are ready. The sound of footsteps thundered down the stairs in response to her call from the kitchen. A 6-year-old boy with sparkling brown eyes appeared like a small tornado. The rookie baseball player of the Little Eagles was full of energy this morning too. "Mom, can I have lots of honey on my pancakes today? I worked really hard at practice yesterday." "Oh, always wanting sweets," Linda smiled gently while patting her son's head. "If you want to be a baseball player, you need a balanced diet, right? Here, drink your fruit smoothie too." Patricia was already seated at the breakfast table. The former high school teacher and mother-in-law was sipping coffee while reading the newspaper. Beside her, Walter, the retired architect, smiled warmly at his grandson. Linda's marriage to Michael, whom she met at an advertising industry conference 8 years ago, ended sooner than expected. Alex was born a year after their marriage, and for financial reasons, they began living with his parents. However, the gap between Linda and her work-absorbed husband gradually widened, and their lack of communication and differing values became irreparable. She continued living with her ex-husband's parents even after the divorce, for Alex's sake. There was also the practical reality of Santa Barbara's high cost of living. On weekdays, Linda would take Alex to school in the morning, while Patricia would look after him after school. In the evenings, Linda would return from work, and they would spend family time together. Weekends were spent watching baseball games at Municipal Ballpark and taking walks around Stearns Wharf. "Linda, are you going to be late again today?" Patricia looked up from her newspaper. Her tone carried a hint of criticism. "Yes, I have a presentation for a new client. But I'll definitely be home before dinner." Though her mother-in-law appeared cooperative on the surface, Linda often sensed subtle criticism in her words. This tendency had grown stronger since her ex-husband's second marriage 2 years ago. Diana, her ex-husband's current wife, was a former nurse who was now a full-time housewife. She kept her fertility treatments secret from others. While she played the role of the perfect stepmother outwardly, Linda occasionally felt uneasy about the way she looked at Alex. "Hey Mom," Alex said, maple syrup around his mouth. "This Saturday, I'm going to the amusement park with Dad and Aunt Diana. Want to come too?" Linda smiled while wiping her son's mouth. "I'm sorry, sweetie. Mom has to work. Have fun with Dad and Diana." But beneath that smile, an unsettling feeling stirred. She had been bothered by something Alex had mumbled recently. "Sometimes Aunt Diana scares me." At the time, she had brushed it off, thinking he was just tired. But now, looking back, perhaps it had been a warning sign. Lately, she felt the atmosphere in the house was gradually changing. Patricia's attitude had become noticeably more awkward. After finishing their morning routine, Linda dropped Alex off at Roosevelt Elementary School. As the bells of Mission Santa Barbara rang, she watched her son wave energetically and run off. A few days later, this peaceful daily life would be dramatically shaken in unexpected ways. With 3 days until an important presentation in Los Angeles, Linda was working late into the night in her home office, wrestling with documents. This was a project that would determine the annual contract with their major client, Pacific Brands. However, every time she tried to concentrate on work, an unsettling feeling would well up inside her. "I'll be away for 3 days starting tomorrow," Linda gently explained while tucking Alex into bed after dinner. "Mom, you'll come back, right?" Her heart tightened at his anxious voice. "Of course. Grandma Patricia will take care of you. And Aunt Diana said she'll help too." The moment he heard those words, Alex's expression clouded over. "Aunt Diana? What's wrong?" "Nothing." The next morning, as Linda was preparing to leave, Patricia appeared in the kitchen unusually early. "Don't worry, Linda. We'll look after Alex." There was a certain tension in her voice. "Yes, please do." A message from Diana lay on the kitchen table. "I'll be happy to help. Please leave Alex to me." Before departing, Alex hugged Linda more tightly than usual. "Mom, come back soon. I promise. I'll definitely be back in 3 days." As she drove south on State Street, Linda kept glancing at her house in the rearview mirror. The bells of Mission Santa Barbara rang with a somehow melancholic tone. The fateful phone call came on the evening of the second day of her presentation. "Ms. Carter, this is the Santa Barbara Police Department." Linda's cell phone rang just as she left the conference room. "Yes, this is Linda Carter. We're calling about your son Alex." In that moment, the blood drained from Linda's face. "We received a report that your son has been missing since 5 p.m. yesterday." Presentation materials scattered across the floor. The voices around her grew distant. "I'm coming back right away." 3 hours later, Linda arrived home. Several police cars were already parked at the entrance. In the living room, which had been designated as the investigation headquarters, Patricia was explaining the situation to the police. "I definitely saw him playing in the garden until around 5 p.m. And after that, when I went to call him for dinner, he was gone." Diana had also rushed over. In stark contrast to her usual composed demeanor, she seemed excessively distraught. "I should have come. I should have helped Patricia." Her voice seemed somehow theatrical. "They check security camera footage. Begin neighborhood inquiries. Start the search. But Alex is nowhere to be found." And 3 days after his disappearance, in the early morning, the sound of waves washing up on East Beach rang out like an overture announcing a decisive discovery. Under cloudy skies, a chilly sea breeze swept across the beach. Seagulls cried ominously overhead. What awaited Linda, who had rushed there after receiving a police call, was a blue sports bag half buried in the sand. It belonged to Alex. "Miss Carter." A detective approached with a grave expression. "We found your son's bag. However, what is it? Did something happen to my son?" Linda's voice trembled. The detective continued, carefully choosing his words. "From the contents of the bag, we believe this is neither an accident nor a simple disappearance." At that moment, large tears spilled from Linda's eyes. "Please, find Alex." Sitting on a nearby bench, Linda suddenly realized something. The bag's position seemed unnatural, as if someone had deliberately placed it there. And inside the bag were items that Alex would never have prepared on his own. In the morning mist, the bells of Mission Santa Barbara struck 7. It was like a dark omen, signaling that this case was more than just a disappearance. Linda's phone vibrated. The sender was Deanna. The moment she opened it, the blood drained from her face. As the contents of the bag found on East Beach became clear, the investigation began to take a new turn. "This is definitely someone's doing," said the assistant inspector, examining each piece of evidence. "Everything found in the bag is items that a 6-year-old child wouldn't prepare on their own." Linda's hands trembled as she reviewed the evidence list. New children's clothing, flight reservation tickets to Cancun, Mexico, a large amount of cash, new passport photos. These were prepared methodically by someone, the assistant inspector continued. Especially the flight reservation. The fact that it's to Cancun suggests international flight. Linda's voice shook. At the Santa Barbara Police Station headquarters, new facts were coming to light one after another. Security cameras had captured a suspicious vehicle lurking near Alex's school route on the day of his disappearance. A dark SUV. Though the license plate wasn't visible, its distinctive scratch marks seemed familiar somehow. "Linda." It was Michael who called out. He had returned, interrupting his business trip to Seattle. "That car, isn't it Diana's?" The air in the investigation room froze at those words. Meanwhile, Diana's behavior was becoming increasingly erratic. She repeatedly posted, "Please let my sweet son be found," on social media every hour, and in the local mothers group, she loudly proclaimed, "I will protect him as his second mother." Her actions were viewed by investigators as signs of unnatural interest. "Ms. Carter." A young female detective approached. "When we investigated Diana's past, we found some concerning information. Hospital records. Failed fertility treatments. History of psychiatric visits. And a record of being questioned as a suspect in an attempted infant abduction case at her previous workplace. However, she was not prosecuted due to insufficient evidence." "Why such important information?" Michael's face turned pale. "I knew nothing. Neither about my wife's background nor her fertility treatments." As Mission Santa Barbara's evening bells rang, Patricia was called to the police station again. This time, it wasn't a voluntary interview. "Mrs. Carter." The assistant inspector began calmly. "There are serious contradictions in your testimony. Surveillance camera footage. Convenience store receipts. Mobile phone location data. All evidence contradicted Patricia's testimony." Patricia's hands began to shake. "Deanna asked me to." Her tearful confession began. 2 weeks ago, when Diana visited. "I can't have children. I desperately want Alex. I want to start a new life. If you help me, I'll reward you generously." And the plan became clear. Using Linda's business trip. Luring Alex away. Placing the bag on the beach to make it look like an accident. The escape plan to Mexico. Patricia's confession revealed shocking facts. Just then, an emergency call came into the police station. "Deanna's vehicle has been spotted in the rental villa district on the outskirts of Santa Barbara." The investigation headquarters erupted in commotion. Linda stood up. "I'm going too. It's dangerous. But he's my..." At that moment, the assistant inspector's radio crackled. "Emergency directive. Suspect Diana has begun moving by car with Alex. Direction south, toward Mexico." The blood drained from Linda's face. "Alex." The situation was about to enter a new phase. Police sirens echoed through the Santa Barbara night sky. A line of police vehicles raced south from State Street onto Highway 101. In one of them, Linda sat trembling. "Miss Carter." The assistant inspector turned around from the front seat. According to GPS location data, the suspect's vehicle is about 20 miles ahead. "We'll definitely catch up before they reach the border." Linda nodded silently. Her reflection in the car window looked ghostly pale. Latest information. The radio crackled. Visual confirmation of suspect's vehicle at Santa Barbara County line. Speed within limit. Child seat visible in passenger seat. Childlike figure in back seat. At that moment, Linda's phone vibrated. From Diana. "This is fate. I need Alex. He's meant to be my son. Keep the connection active," the assistant inspector directed. "It will help us track their location." Patricia's questioning continued at the police station. "That day when Diana came, I should have noticed the abnormality in her eyes. She kept repeating, 'Alex is my child.' But for Michael's new life, I turned a blind eye." Meanwhile, Michael sat in another room, head in his hands. "Why didn't I notice? I was so focused on work, I wasn't watching my family. Linda, Alex. I'm truly sorry." Mission Santa Barbara's midnight bells rang with an ominous sound. Suddenly, the radio became busy. "Suspect vehicle entering gas station before Santa Barbara County line. This is our last chance." The assistant inspector gave instructions. "All vehicles, stop sirens. Approach silently." The gas station came into view. Fluorescent lights cast an eerie glow in the darkness of night. Diana's black SUV was stopped in front of the pump. Linda's heart pounded. Then, the SUV's passenger door opened. "Alex." A small figure appeared from behind the gas pump. "Don't move. Diana Carter. Surrender." But Diana's expression was unnaturally calm. "We're going to be a family. No one will stop us." Something gleamed in her hand. At that moment, Alex shouted, "Mom!" Linda broke free from the police restraint and ran out from behind the gas pump. "Alex! Come here." A moment when time seemed to stop. Diana's hand trembled. Alex started running. Police officers held their breath. "No! He's my child!" Diana screamed. But her voice no longer reached Alex's ears. Mother and child embrace. Tears. A sigh of relief. And Diana's collapse. Why can't I have children?" She collapsed on the spot. What fell from her hand was a toy gun. Before dawn, Mission Santa Barbara's bells announced a new morning. In the police station interrogation room, Diana's confession continued. 6 years ago, I was pregnant but lost my uterus in a car accident. I couldn't tell Michael. Every time I saw Alex, I felt like he was my child." In another room, Patricia bowed deeply to Linda. "I know it's unforgivable. But for my son's new life, Linda answered quietly. "It will take time. But Alex needs his grandparents' love too. Let's rebuild trust slowly." Michael also began to speak his true feelings for the first time. I was a workaholic and lost sight of my family. From now on, I want to properly face Alex. Linda, I realize now how strong you are. And 1 week later, at Roosevelt Elementary School's gate, Linda held Alex's hand tightly. Mom, it's okay, Alex said with a smile. I'm not scared anymore. The morning sun rose from the eastern sky. Mission Santa Barbara's bells rang with a gentle sound. A new morning. A new beginning. And stronger family bonds. Linda looked up at the sky. The darkness had passed, and light was streaming in. Have a good day. See you later. Alex energetically passed through the school gates. Linda waved slightly at his retreating figure. This time, she wouldn't let anyone take away this daily life. Linda made that vow. Mission Santa Barbara's bells rang once more. It was a sound announcing the beginning of a new chapter. One summer day, a year later, Linda and Patricia sat facing each other at a cafe on State Street. Alex's baseball has improved, hasn't it? Yes. Michael has been attending practice every week. Time heals, and wounds gradually close. At Stearns Wharf, Alex was enjoying fishing with Walter. Michael watched from a distance. Though the family's form had changed, their bonds had deepened. Deanna continued treatment at a facility. Someday, I want to ask for forgiveness, her letter said. As evening fell, Mission Santa Barbara's bells rang. The gentle sound enveloped the entire town. It was an ending, and also a new beginning. The sun set in the Santa Barbara sky. Tomorrow, too, the bells would ring again.